Okay, so for this session, we'll talk about the image properties. Last meeting, we discussed how to load images using OpenCV for Python. And we, uh, as a review, the syntax for reading a certain file is CV2. Okay, so it's important that you import first the CV2 package or OpenCV package, the latest version of this one to Python, so that it can read this um, code. Okay, so we use the imread or image read method, and then the parameters are the file name. Of course, the file name is required so that the the image will the program will know where to find your image that you want to display or to modify or whatever. And then optional parameters are the different flags. So for the color modes, you can use -1 for transparency. Uh, this is for those images with alpha channels, and 0 if you want the colored image or whatever image that you are loading to be in grayscale, and then 1 for colored, but transparency is neglected. So in a way, when you use -1, you'll be reading, let's say, a PNG file with an alpha channel. But when you use 1 for the color mode, even if it's an alpha, it has an alpha channel, it will only read the first three, the red, the green, and the blue channels. So in a way, it converts that to something like a JPEG, because as you know, the JPEG file has no transparency or for an alpha channel. Okay, so an example is in IMG. So you will set a specific file name, variable name for uh, that particular image, so that you can call that particular image in your other lines of code. So img equals cv2 dot imread images slash image1 dot jpeg 1. Okay, so in this case, the image is located inside the images folder, and then the file name is image1 dot jpeg, and then that will be a colored image without transparency. So all of these will be loaded inside the img variable. If we call the img uh, variable, we can do or we can display it or do some modifications to it. Okay? So at this point, um, the program will only read the image. So it will not display the image yet. But you can already see that if you try to print img, you'll see the array of the different color values. Okay, so this is in a way a shortcut or an easier version of what we discussed in our previous sessions. Remember the exercise where uh, you go to a particular pixel, and then you get the color information, and then you save that to a particular index in the array. So in a shorter version, Python does it for us. Okay, so but at least you know the process of how that um, that process work. And then if you want to display it, you'll use the method imshow. So the first parameter is the name of the window. Since this will create a new window, you can include other any string here. If you want, to name it differently, you can do so. Yeah. uh, and then which image will be displayed in that particular window. Since we are using the img variable, you can just input it here. We have a wait key. Sorry, I think this should be here. You can also save the image using I am right. In I am right, you'll need the file name of the image, and the new file name, so that it will save to that particular file name, and then the variable. So in this case, it will just duplicate the image, uh, since we did not do any modifications yet. But if you have, let's say, if you do some processing, image processing in that particular image, eh, so you can save that in a different file. The wait key is just to make sure that um, your your program will not crash, uh, and you know how to you can close that particular window. Okay, so the wait key, the 0 here is for milliseconds, the wait time, meaning it's in infinite until you press the escape key. And then it will, after that, it will destroy all windows, meaning it will close the window. Okay, so that's our discussion last meeting. So we'll need some of those, especially the read and the show part for this session. So for this session, we'll talk about the image properties. Okay, the first one is the shape. Okay, so we can use image name dot shape as our syntax. What this particular line outputs is the height, the width, and the channels. So just we call that show you what it will look like, to demonstrate. I'll uh, do I'll demonstrate this one. Okay, uh, image dot shape. So we use, yeah, image name, the variable name of the image, and then dot shape. Then I will print that. Let's see. Um, you go to the terminal, you type Python 3. Make sure that your current directory is um, the same with. So since this is the file demo.py, uh, we'll make sure that we are inside this folder, demo.py. Okay. I don't know why it took a while, but the program output the these values: 748, 748, and 3. What does this mean? If uh, we have this guide, sorry, looking at this guide, we know that the first one is the height, the second one is the width, and the third one is the channel. This is the number of channels that image has. since that's an image, that's a JPEG. Sorry. Uh, since this is a PNG, but I read that as one, meaning I neglected the transparency layer. Uh, we will only have three channels. Let's see if I make this -1. Uh, -1 is for the transparency. So I'll try to check that out. Now I have four channels. Okay, so that will depend on the flag that you used. If you is your flag um, the color mode that you used is includes the transparency, or if it's a grayscale, or if it's color. So for color, the output will be 3. For um, with transparency, the output will be 4. If grayscale, it should output, since it will be 0, since it will be um, only two values, it won't print the channels. Meaning, if you get these two values only, if you only have the height and the width, it means that that particular image is in grayscale. Okay. If you have RGB, then you'll see here 3, and then for RGBA, sorry, with alpha channel. Uh, I believe I mentioned last meeting that OpenCV reads the image in reverse. So it's not RGB, it's BGR. Okay. But for with alpha channel, it's BGRA. BGR. Blue, green, red, and alpha. Okay. I'll revert this back to 1. Okay, so we have 3 channels. So this is the height, and this is the width. Just to check, since this is an image, this is a square image, we'll have the same value. But unlike other languages, I believe in C++, um, the the width is always it's the first one before the height. Same with the red, the green, and the blue. That's it. That's the order. But in OpenCV, I believe it's in reverse. So um, in terms of color channels, it starts with blue, green, and then red. In terms of the dimensions, it starts with height and then the width. But just to check, of course, we can check it if we have a square image. But if I have another image in the folder, image1.jpg, this will have a different. This has a different dimensions. So let's see. So yes, this is the height. This is the height, and then this is the width. So nauna talaga yung height for OpenCV. Paano ko nalaman na nauna yung height? Because I know that the image is rectangular in shape. Okay, so syempre ito yung smaller or smaller size. Siya yung height, ito yung longer na size, which is the width. Okay, so that is how to access, to know the dimensions of your image. Also, you can check if the image has a has 3 channels, 1 channel, or 4 channels. But what if we only want the width? We want to know, we want to print out or to access the um, width by checking the output of image dot shape. We know that it outputs the height, the width, and the channels, but it outputs it in a list kind of form. So in a way, this is an array, or um, most more accurately, in terms of Python, this is a tuple. You can just search tuple. Okay, this is uh, the term that Python will use for this particular output. But it has similarities with um, a list or an array. So in arrays, we can access each value by using the bracket code. So we'll have this. This is in index 0, index 1, index 2. So if we want to access width, we can use 1. So when you are accessing a particular value inside a list, inside an array, inside a tuple, or set, dictionary, these are the different types of list in a way. So in Python, um, if we can use this bracket notation to access a particular value. Okay, so if we want um, the width, since the index for width is 1, we can use it here. Okay, so if I run this again, we are outputting the value width. If we want to output, let's say, height, we'll use the index 0. Okay, so 418. You want to output the number of channels, then you can use, 2. Okay? Bakit nga ulit 0, 0, 1, 2? Okay? Remember, if in a list, in an array, yung location nila in a particular array is called an index. So the index is always starts with 0. So this is index 0, index 1, index 2. So if you want to access this, we'll use index 0. This is 1 and this is 2. Okay? Kailan ba natin gagamitin? When will we be using these width or height? Okay, if you go back to our demonstration or discussion recorded session for the basics of image, we created some sort of an algorithm to to check, if you remember the loop, to check if a particular value has exceeded the number of width. So in this way, we can check that um, condition. You can also um, save that particular value in a variable name already, so that uh, alam mo na kung saan siya hahanapin. Sorry, this is one. Yung width ay 1. So, ito na yung i-display. Okay. Or we can do something like this. Okay, so huwag na muna natin problemahin yung mga extra spaces. Kasi, okay, so in that way, we can access the different properties of a particular image. We're not yet modifying. We're not yet processing images. We're just reading the image, reading, accessing the height, the width, the different channels. Because later on, you'll need these information for some operations. Okay? So dapat alam mo lang kung paano siya ginagamit. Okay? We can also display the total number of pixels by using the dot size. So let's demonstrate that one. Print img dot size. So we'll have 858,909. So that is the same as just multiplying 685 times 480. Times 3. Sorry, this is not the total number of pixels, but this is the total number of channels, values na makikita mo. There is 685 width pixels in a particular width. We also have 418 height. Since each pixel has three channels, 3 values, one for red, for green, and for blue, or for baliktad nga pala, for blue, for green, and for red, there is a total of 850,990 values in that particular array or in that particular list. So nakaset lang siya na sa umpisa, yung first 3 values doon, that's the value of the first pixel, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are some things that we can use. Some values that we can work around later on when we do some processing. Okay. So what if we want to access a particular pixel? We need, what if you want to know ano kaya yung blue, green, and red values ng first pixel ng image 1, let's say. So we can print this one, image name, since you remember that the image is actually an array of colors, of values. So we are still using the brackets to access a particular pixel. So let's say we will access y and x. Okay, remember in Python, baliktad siya. So nung una yung y value bago yung x. Let's see what's the color information for the first pixel. So that's 0, 0. Okay, so we'll have 0, 0, 0. Since 3 channels lang siya, these are the values. Value for blue, for green, and for red. Since it's all 0, it means that the color is black. So to check, this is the image that was loaded. Since may border siya, there's a border. The first pixel is black. So let's try somewhere here. Okay, so if this is 685, probably, kunin natin yung gitna. Yung nasa gitna ng width and gitna ng height. Um, if you know that particular value, then good. If not, we can use what we've learned a while ago. We know that to get to the center, we'll just have to get the width and then divide it by 2. Get the height and then divide it by 2. So we save the width, img dot shape, width is 1. And then we save the height, img shape, this is 0. Okay, so this is the width. Kasi yan yung width. Ito yung height. And then, what we need to do to get is the color information for the middle and the center and middle. Basta yung gitna ng image. So, since this is y, height divided by 2, and then width divided by 2. Error siya. Ayaw niya. Wait lang. Only integers. Okay. Since pag dinivide niya, magiging float. Let's try this one. I'll force it to I'll convert the image, the result to an integer. Okay. Let me clear the window and run it again. This is the pixel information, the color information for the pixel in the centermost part of the image. A while ago, it the program before I added this int or integer resulted to an error. Okay. In programming, we should not be afraid of these errors because, well, I do not know. I don't think that any programmer can create a program without encountering errors. So at some point, at least one point, you'll encounter error, and that's okay. That's how we'll learn. So a while ago, it resulted to this kind of error. How do we solve this one? So if you want, if you read this, this is the, in a way, the documentation of the error. So sabi niya, the file, this is the file, demo.py that I was trying to access. In line 6, in that particular module, but since we only have one module, we're only working on a particular file. So in line 6, this is the code. So print img height slash 2 with slash 6. And looking at the file, the actual file, you'll see that is, yeah, that's correct. Okay. The problem, according to the terminal, there's an error. Only integers, slices, ellipses, uh, new axis, numpy, new axis, and integer or boolean arrays are valid indices. So um, since actually these are indices, index, right? This is the index for the y axis, and this is the index for the x axis. So according to the error, index indices are only can only be integers, or may there are other accepted values such as slices and ellipses. We'll get into that later. But generally, we can only use integers for index for indices. But since we are using sort of a dynamic computation, um, so that we don't have to compute uh, to hard code the value for the centermost pixel, we used the division operation. We we get the entire width and then we divide it by 2, and get the entire height and then divide it by 2. So the intersection is the center. However, given that the output, um, the value for width is 680 685, if you divide that by 2, that's 342.5. That's already a float, or in a decimal. It has a decimal point. That is not an integer. That's why the program is outputting an error. So what we did is to force it to either to round up or to round down. Actually, we did not specify if it should round up or round down. What we did is just to force it to become an integer. To convert any type data type into another one, you'll just enclose that in a parenthesis, and then int, meaning, and this will force the result, the quotient. This will force that into an integer, meaning it will ignore the decimal point. Just to make sure that uh, the same goes with the other one, you can just have use both integer for both values. So now there are no errors, and then it is now displaying the pixel information for the centermost pixel of the image. That's 111, 177, 188. This is for blue, this is for green, and this is for red. Okay, remember, it's in reverse. So just to check if this will work even in a um, different image. So I'll load the add new logo since it's a PNG, and I'll still ignore the transparency. So will still be three values. Okay, so I don't have to know the width. I don't have to compute. Remember before we divided this by 2. Um, I don't have to, because this line is doing it for me. Okay, so the less hard coding, the better. Okay, so the centermost value is 69 for blue, 164 for green, and 191 for red. So that's the color for the centermost pixel of the add new logo. Let's see if this is the centermost. I believe it's around, probably it's this red one because the value, um, the red, green. Oh no, this is the color for the sort of a goldish color, because 164 and 191 isn't too far in terms of value. Since this is the red and the green, the purest red plus the purest green is a yellowish. Yellow is a yellow color. So if you're working with those two values, um, yellow value, and then but it's not in full capacity, in full value, meaning it's not the pure yellow, but the gold is partly yellow. So even just knowing the values of the pixel information, you don't and then you know how to mix colors in theory, you can guess that color already if you know how to analyze these numbers. Okay, since the blue value is negligible, not necessarily negligible, but it's very low. So it's just 69 out of 255. So it won't affect much in terms of color. Okay, so that's how to access. That's how we access the RGB, the pixel. We can also access a particular pixel, a particular channel. So what we are doing now is to access everything, right? But sorry, but what if we want, um, what if we want to display the third one, the red one? So this is the X. Sorry, this is the Y. This is the X, and then we can just add another parameter here and write the channel. Remember 0, 1, 2. That's the index. 0 for blue, 1 for green, and 2 for red. So if you want to access the red value, we use the two index, or sorry, index 2. Um, then it will only display the 191. And if this is 1, it will display the green 164. Okay. And then for blue, yeah, hindi ko siya na-save. So make sure you save the file before you run this in your terminal or command prompt. Okay, so 69, ito yung blue value. So that is how we access um, access the different pixels. Now that you can access it, you can even change the information. You can change or modify the value. You can do it directly. So remember, looking at this, the output is 69, right? What if we want to change the value for initial blue value? Let's see first. Okay, so this will output 69. That is for blue. But we want to change the value. Instead of 69, we'll make it, let's say, 255. Um, IMG, uh, we can get this one. We can just copy this one because we want to change that particular pixel. So the syntax is the image name, and then the Y, the X, and the channel equal, uh, let me, equals a particular value. Okay, so let's say this is 255. Then we change this again, and then modify. We are hoping that after when we run this, it will print initial value 69 and then modified b value 255. Let's see if my code is correct. Okay, so what happened is initially kinuha niya yung value, which is 69 for the blue, and then this line of code changed that value into 255. So now, when we printed this output, the value is now 255. So we are forcing, we are changing. In a way, we are starting with the image processing. Okay? Before, we are just loading the image, we are just accessing the properties. But as we access the properties, we can immediately um, change some pixel values already. But we're just doing this in a way, pixel by pixel, right? Or value per value, channel for per channel. But later on, we'll be discussing this in a larger scale. Like everything should be blurred, everything should be something like this and something like that. Okay, so let's see if um, what happened when we change that value. So let's show the image before. Sorry. Let's change. Let's display the image. Let's see if ano may itsura. No. Okay. So now this is the image. Nakikita ba? Ang pinakagitna niya somewhere here. It's not very evident. Let's see. Let's try to... kasi blue lang yung pinalitan natin. Okay? What if we want to change the entire pixel information? So we can do that by using this one. We just actually we actually emit the channel. So instead of changing a particular channel, we'll change everything para mas makita natin. Hindi ko masyado nakita kung nasaan yung difference na eh. Let's change this. Delete natin. IMG. Let me copy this. The X and Y is still the center. And then equals the new value. We'll make it black so that it can be seen. 0, 0, 0. And let's see. The initial value is 69, 164, 191. I'm sorry. Baka hindi nyo mo nakikita. Let me clear. Uh, 69, 164, 191. And then, if we modify that, we'll make it black. It will be 0, 0, 0. So to show that, can you see this particular pixel? Kita mo to? Meaning that is in the centermost part of that image. And we changed that value from a colored one, from a goldish, golden some sort of color, to a black pixel. Okay. Let's create two pictures. Okay, so let's display two pictures, the one with the modified and the one without modifications. So I'll save this new, sorry, uh, mm, I'll show this one here. Image one, and then create an image two after. So we have, isa lang talaga. Later, I'll have to check kung how to display two images side by side. But so far, yun, we change that particular pixel into a different color. Questions?
None so far, sir. Also, sir, ano na po, na-install ko na po si Python.
Okay. Okay na?
Yes,
Ano,
in-launch ko yung Qt console po yung ginagamit niyo po, right? Ay, no, not this one, sorry. Ay, mali ako.
alin po?